It'll come as no surprise to say that video games are often influenced by other media. I mean, just off the top of my head, look at how many games I've stolen from the likes of Enter the Dragon, Aliens, Terminator and The Warriors. Heck, think of any popular piece of pop culture, and you can bet your bottom dollar at least one video game has homaged it at some point. However, considering the movie and television industry loves to look down its nose at video game commerce, they have no qualms with stealing back from the media. And I don't mean influenced steal, I mean outright embezzled concepts in many cases. So, this episode, we take a look at these pilfered pixels, these purloined programs, and these shanghaied softwares. As I say, but hello you. I'm Guru Larry, and I welcome you to Fact Hunt. 5 times other media shamelessly stole from video games. Saying manga and anime have inspired a lot of games is a bit like saying the sun is a teensy bit warm, or water's quite moist, innit? Games in turn have also inspired manga and anime, to the point where entire manga series have been spun off from a single smartphone game. One manga that isn't quite so flagrantly obvious about its gaming inspirations is Nobuhiro Watsuki's Rurouni Kenshin, serialised in Weekly Shonen Jump between 1994 and 1999. It's the story of a wandering ex-assassin called Kenshin trying to live a peaceful life in Meiji-era Japan, and draws heavily on Japanese historical characters and events. Now, that last bit is something games have also done a lot of, so you might be wondering, what could Rurouni Kenshin have stolen from video games that video games themselves hadn't already pinched from Japanese history? Well, the primary antagonist of the manga's Kyoto arc, Makoto Shishio, didn't always look like he'd been flame-grilled and then rolled through a toilet paper factory. In fact, before his horrific injuries, he looked almost identical to Genjuro Kibagami from Samurai Showdown 2. The theft doesn't stop at likeness rights either. Shishio's ability to create flaming tornadoes with his sword is clearly inspired by Genjuro's in-game rival, Hobomaru's Cyclone Slash. You could charitably call it a coincidence, but then again, how many other fictional Japanese swordsmen were chucking flaming tornadoes around in 1994? Anyway, it's an absolute indisputable fact that Shishio definitely 100% outright stole a move from Samurai Showdown 4. Because Nobuhiro Watsuki says he did. In fact, Watsuki was such a fan of the Samurai Showdown games that not only did he regularly mention it in early issues of Rurouni Kenshin, he even bought a Neo Geo CD to play them on. SNK returned the favour by taking a lot of, influence from Kenshin for the other, lesser-known samurai-themed 2D fighter, Last Blade, set in the same period of Japanese history. SNK also hired Watsuki to design some of the characters for Samurai Showdown 5, and he would have likely Weekland Shonen jumped at an opportunity to work on Samurai Showdown's newest instalment. That is, if he'd been offered one and hadn't been charged with possession of child pornography in 2017. 2011's sci-fi comedy horror Attack the Block, the film that helped persuade Disney to hire John Boyega for the Star Wars sequel trilogy, only to then push his character further to the sidelines with each instalment, has more video game influences than you might expect from a film set on a South London council estate. According to writer and director Joe Cornish, in a 2011 interview with Official Nintendo magazine, the visual design of the aliens that Boyega and friends are up against were directly inspired by the big old beast from Eric Chahi's Another World, or Out of This World for all you people out there in the colonies, and specifically the Super Nintendo version. Put Cornish's creature next to Chahi's creation, and the similarity is face-slappingly obvious. both being dark silhouettes that seem to absorb all light, and the most prominent visible feature is a big nasty set of pointy teeth. However, Attack the Block's gaming influence doesn't end there either. In the same interview, Cornish admits the idea of setting a film in a London tower block didn't come from some cinematic inspiration like the Towering Inferno, Metropolis or Die Hard, but from Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64. Specifically, Lucrine Tower, his favourite level in the game. Still, at least he's honest about his video game influences. Unlike the American TV network ABC and the showrunners of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 5 minutes into episode 10 of the show's first season, eagle-eyed viewers noticed a certain high-tech facility looks like it could have come straight out of concept art for Mass Effect. And there's a very good reason for this. It did literally come straight out of concept art for Mass Effect. Mass Effect 3 to be exact. And not just any old concept art either. It was from a piece called Earth Alliance that BioWare only sold in a limited run of 500 individually numbered physical lithographs, though you can pretty easily find a JPEG of it online. The building used in the show isn't exactly like the one in the concept art. Whoever threw it in at least chopped a bit off and tweaked the shadows, but it's otherwise the same building. And since fans of Mass Effect are also likely to be fans of other sci-fi, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you have to wonder how they thought they'd get away with it. Little sly nods, winks and Easter eggs are one thing, but a whole building is going to stick out like the USS Enterprise trying to blend in with a fleet of Star Destroyers. While ABC and EA refused to comment on the matter, staff at BioWare were quite chuffed with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D's avaricious acquisition of their architecture. Although they couldn't really complain given BioWare's own history of using other people's images in their games. Case in point being that stock photo of a model they chucked into Mass Effect 3. You know, the one they tweaked a bit and tried to pass off as Tali without a mask on. Still, at least that was a stock photo anyone can buy, and not original artwork directly commissioned for a specific project. If you're going to steal something from games, then don't make it so bloody obvious. Be like Sam Mendes, director of 1917, instead. Now, you might be thinking, what could 1917, winner of multiple Academy Awards for Best Achievement in Visual Effects, Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, and Best Achievement in Cinematography, possibly have stolen from video games? Some musical sound effects, perhaps? The answer is, actually, well, the Oscar for Best Achievement in Cinematography, which should have perhaps really gone to Red Dead Redemption 2. You see, Sam Mendes is a bit more abstract than other people when it comes to nicking things from video games. Why pinch something so crude as a piece of concept art, or a character's appearance, where you can jack something less tangible like a game's entire third-person camera? Okay, so theft might be too strong a word with this one, but Red Dead Redemption 2 definitely influenced how the film turned out. In interviews during press tours for the film, Mendes specifically mentioned watching his kids playing the game and finding a single focus camera during gameplay mesmerising from a storytelling perspective. So mesmerising, in fact, that it directly inspired him to film all of 1917 in its Academy Award-winning single-shot style. Also, viewers could, in the exact words of Sam Mendes describing his Red Dead revelation, feel they were there with the characters, breathing their every breath, walking in their footsteps. Speaking of Red Dead Redemption, the very first episode of HBO's Westworld shamelessly lifts the opening train ride from the first game. However, like Joe Cornish with Attack the Block, the creators of the Westworld TV series, Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, have been nothing but open and honest about the influence of video games on the show. Not only have they directly name-dropped Red Dead Redemption, GTA and BioShock in interviews, They've even played a bunch of Red Dead as part of their research for the show, which certainly beats dragging yourself to a library and squinting at a microfiche reader for hours on end. The rest of the show also has more discreet nods to gaming as a whole, from the behaviour of Westworld's NPCs, or hosts as the show calls them, to character interactions, player power fantasies, respawning, and loads of other stuff people can and probably already have written huge pseudo-academic essays about. So perhaps we could forgive them a little bit, and charitably consider their great train ride robbery more a homage than an actual theft. Even though it's blatantly theft. Hello you. Thanks ever so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to be first to see future Fact Hunt episodes. Click on the bell if you already are to make sure you're notified, and be sure to check out my other episodes. And if you want to be super awesome, check out my Patreon. But thanks again for watching, and I'll be seeing you next time. Ta-ra for now.